Hi guys, welcome to my April wrap-up. Today is actually only April 15th as I'm starting this video, and the reason for that is I have several books that are due back at the library, and I wanted to be able to include them in my wrap-up. So I'm filming this sort of in two parts, and it'll just be one video you'll be watching. I just might be wearing something different by the end of it. So the books that I have to return to the library are Vampire Knight Volumes 7 through 10 in the manga series by Matsuri Hino. This is Volume 7. Volume 8. This is one of my favorite volumes of the series so far because we find out a major revelation of one of the main characters, Yuki Cross. She arrives at Cross Academy, where it's a school for both vampires and humans, and she has no recollection of her past, but it's sort of revealed to both her and the reader at the same time in this volume, and there's totally shocking surprises in this. This is Volume 9, and then Volume 10. And there's still several volumes to go. I actually have 4 more that I've already gotten from the library, so they may be in the latter half of this video. Each book kind of has a synopsis to catch you up with what's happened in the story so far. And at the very back there's like a list of characters, so you can kind of familiarize yourself with their look. Sometimes the characters do tend to look a lot alike in this, so it gets a little bit confusing. This particular back part piece, though, doesn't really give you background information on the characters. It just sort of gives you a translation of their names. Absolutely love the artwork in it. This panel here kind of really gives you a good image of it. One of my favorite panels I've come across so far. And lots of action, just a really great plot line. I've given each one of these books 5 stars so far. I've also read Blue Exorcist Volume 4, and this manga series is by Kazue Kato, about a young boy who he's training to become an exorcist, someone who kills demons. He happens to also be the son of Satan, so he's a demon himself, and that's sort of a sudden revelation to him, and yeah, he sort of wants revenge, and he is dead set against, against demons, and wants to train to become an exorcist. But it's a really intriguing series. I'm enjoying this one and Vampire Knight, and I'm also following them in the anime series as well, so I definitely recommend both of these. I think I gave this one 5 stars as well. In addition to the manga so far, I've also downloaded an advanced ARC copy of a graphic novel from DC Comics entitled Batman and Superman, Volume 1, Crossworld. This is part of the New 52 series. This is by Greg Pak and Jay Lee. I don't generally read superhero comics, but this particular one kind of intrigued me. I saw some of the images of the artwork, and the synopsis really grabbed my attention because it says it's the first meeting between Batman and Superman. So I thought, well, that could be pretty cool. So I went ahead and downloaded it, and shortly after that, I was completely disappointed. And the reason for that is, Batman and Superman do get to meet on Earth, and then almost immediately are transported to like a parallel universe known as Earth 2, where they meet alternate versions of themselves, older versions of themselves. So you have an older and a younger Superman and an older and younger Batman. This is where the plot gets totally confusing. I couldn't tell you who they were battling through this, how they ended up transported there or transported back. As you're reading this comic and watching it, the visual images kind of are blurry with regards to the faces of the characters, so I didn't know if I was reading and looking at like the older one or the younger one of Superman, or vice versa, but the same thing with Batman. I didn't know what was going on, literally. It was very, very confusing. I lost the whole plot thread and totally disappointed in that one. I only gave that one 2 stars. I also listened to an audio book by Gillian Flynn, that's Gone Girl. This is an adult kind of thriller book. A lot of people have read her books. This is the first one I've kind of come across, and it's about a man named Nick Dunn and his wife Amy Dunn, and it's sort of on the eve of their 5th year wedding anniversary, and suddenly Amy disappears. Nick comes home from work to find the house in disarray, things are kind of tossed around, no sign of his wife. And of course, a lot of times in situations like this, the suspicion immediately falls to the husband. And Nick doesn't help the situation at all. As the news media is there kind of doing interviews and things like that, he smiles at the most inappropriate times. As we're like listening in on his thoughts, you find him lying to the police quite often. So we begin to really suspect Nick ourselves. The book is told through the perspective of Nick and Amy, through her kind of journals and things like that. And it's really intriguing to see both points of view with regards to each other and how those perspectives sort of change. there was like a major revelation about midway through the book that I was totally shocked, did not see that coming, and it just got even more and more crazy towards the end of the book. It just drew me in. I couldn't imagine how this was going to all turn out. Overall, I gave this 4 stars. I would have given it 5 stars, but I was a bit disappointed in the ending. I'll just say that it didn't end the way I kind of anticipated. There was like a total lack of justice for me in the end. There are books that I've read, series books and things like that may have a tragic ending that you kind of almost anticipate that happening, and I'm okay with that. This one, though, I won't say tragic ending or anything like that. It just had something lacking. It didn't go the way I expected it to go, and I just thought it really bothered me. So I had to knock it down for 1 star for that. But I definitely recommend it, and I'm going to be looking for some of her other books to pick up too. The only other one that I've read up to today, the 15th, is The Martian by Andy Weir. This is an adult sci-fi novel. I posted a full review for this one on my channel, so you can go check that out. I'll put a link down below. I absolutely love this one. I gave this one 5 stars. It's about a Mars mission that goes horribly wrong. 6 astronauts are on Mars when a dust storm hits, and one of the astronauts is like knocked off his feet, and they can't find him anywhere. All his suit readings, everything kind of go flatline. They believe he's killed, and they have to evacuate immediately and kind of leave him behind. And to their knowledge, he is dead. But he's not. And now he's got to try and find a way to survive until the next Mars mission arrives 4 years later. It was really intriguing. There's a lots of facts and things like that as he has to sort of work out how he's going to stretch the supplies and kind of do a lot of reconstructing and things like that, and engineering with what he has available to him. And it was just, I thought that would, kind of bore me, but it never did. I even found myself getting kind of emotional towards the end, and if you watch my video, I kind of explain why. But just a really great, captivating novel that just kept me gripped all the way through. I highly recommend this one. I gave this one 5 stars. So those are the books I've read up to this point, and the rest of the video will continue with whatever I read next. Read Partials by Dan Wells quite some time ago. Love the story, and sort of a post-apocalyptic story. I gave it 5 stars and decided I want to refresh my memory of the events that happened in this book. So I downloaded the audio, which I enjoyed just as much. If you're not wanting to pick up the physical copy and you like audiobooks, I definitely recommend the audio version of it as well. So I kind of got through that book. And after that, I decided to read an ebook that I had had for a while entitled Isolation, A Lost Tale in the Partial Sequence. And it is basically a prequel to Partials. So you learn about the Isolation War, the reason the Partials were created. They're sort of organic soldiers that were used to fight in the war. It was really interesting to find out that kind of background history of it, so I really enjoyed that. I also downloaded an ARC copy of a graphic novel from Edelweiss, and it is entitled Coffin Hill by Caitlin Kittredge, and artwork by Inaki Miranda. And I really liked the artwork. It was just really kind of creepy. It was definitely geared more for adults, I would say. And it's a story of a young woman by the name of Eve Coffin, who is kind of descended from a family that practices dark witchcraft. And she is sort of a troublemaker in her family, a rebel, punk rocker, and always doing things that her parents disapprove of. And one night she decides to try out a spell from a book of, spells that she's found in the home. And she takes some of her friends with her out into the woods. And after a night of sex, drugs, and witchcraft, she wakes up naked, covered in blood. One of her friends is missing, one has gone insane, and the other one knows that she is responsible. And then the book kind of jumps several years into present time, and she is now a police officer who's recently retired and decides she's going to return back home and sort of set things right. She has sort of unleashed an evil presence that has sort of taken over the town, and she definitely feels responsible for what happened to her friend, who is, both of her friends, the missing one and the one that's in the mental institution. And when she goes back there, she finds the new chief of police is the one that knows that she was originally responsible. So it's a really interesting kind of story. It does jump back and forth in time, and it's easy to follow with that because the artist definitely, he indicates the time frame at the beginning of each of those sections where you're moving around. Plus, you can tell by the appearance of Eve in both of those situations. But overall, I like the story. Some images were, with regards to their faces, sometimes were kind of blurry. Could have been a little bit better. I think I gave this one 4 stars. I was going to kind of check over my ratings on Goodreads for the remainder of these books. And unfortunately, for some reason, the Goodreads site is down. It's sort of crashed for the day, or it's overloaded and I can't get into it. So I'm kind of guessing at the ratings I gave these, but you can always link to my Goodreads page and find the ratings on these. Another book that I read was another kind of ebook, real short one. It's part of a series, and I read this one as part of the Dewey's 24-hour readathon. And that's Kellie's Diary, Volume 4, by Thomas Jenner and Angelina Perkins. And I really enjoy this one. It's just a story told in diary format by a girl named Kellie, who's rather young at the beginning of the series. And you can see her aging as she goes on, but she's surviving a zombie apocalypse, and she's writing to the diary as if it's a friend of hers about the events that she's going through. And it's really quite fascinating, and it's such an easy read that you just get really drawn into her story. In addition to that, I also listened to an audiobook, there goes the phone, entitled The Lifeboat by Charlotte Rogan. And this is an adult fiction about a young woman by the name of Grace. I've forgotten her last name. Let's see. Grace Winter. She's 22, recently married, and she's traveling with her newlywed husband aboard an ocean liner in the summer of 1914, and the boat sinks. Her husband manages to get her aboard a dangerously overcrowded lifeboat before perishing at sea himself. And the story is told from her point of view about the events that take place aboard the lifeboat. And then there's also present-day events, because she has survived those moments on the lifeboat, but now she finds herself on trial for murder, along with 2 other women, for events that took place on that lifeboat. And that was really intriguing. The cover kind of drew me in with that just stark blue and this one lonely little lifeboat out in the middle of just this vast ocean. And the plot line, like I said, it just drew me in. I love these kind of survival type stories. I was really intrigued. What did she do, and what did the other 2 women do aboard this lifeboat, that warranted her being arrested for murder? Unfortunately, from that point on, as I started reading, I was quickly disappointed in the entire story. Being told from her point of view, I thought would be really intriguing, but she is so distant from these events, and the way she describes them, that I never felt herself in peril, and she just doesn't seem present in most of these situations. It's hard to describe, but I really couldn't connect with the main character, and yeah, I was just overall disappointed. I overall gave this one just 2 stars. Continuing on with that, I'm continuing reading the manga series Vampire Knight. These 4 books are due at the library tomorrow, so I had to get this thing filmed pretty quickly. I continue with Volume 11 of Vampire Knight by Matsuri Hino, Volume 12, Volume 13, and Volume 14. Just a really, really great manga series. I'm pretty sure I gave these 5 stars across the board. Number 14, we find yet another revelation of our main character, Kanami. This vampire right here. We were shocked by kind of his background story. I think it was around Volume 10 or so. And now they've kind of like twisted that whole thing around, and it's not quite true what we were told before. So I'm a little confused, to be quite honest, with who exactly he is. And I'm hoping it'll be a little bit more clear in the upcoming issues. So I'll have to wait and see. But I still really enjoyed this series, and I recommend it for you. I'm also reading the Blue Exorcist series. Number 5 I read during Dewey's 24-hour readathon. And I also followed up with number 6, but this was after the readathon was over. I don't recall what I gave for each of these. It's probably 5 stars for both. Might have been 4 stars for one of them. Again, I can't tell you for certain because I can't access the Goodreads website right now because it has crashed for the day. But yeah, you can check it out if you look on my Goodreads page. But it's either 4 or 5 stars. And then for Dewey's 24-hour readathon, my last book I read was Nancy Springer's Enola Holmes Mystery, Volume 3. And this is The Case of the Bizarre Bouquets. Love this series. Great middle grade book about a young girl by the name of Enola Holmes, the much younger sister of both Sherlock and Mycroft Holmes. And the beginning of the series, her mother disappears under strange circumstances, but she's left clues behind for her daughter. And she has not yet found her, but she is sort of communicating with her through clues and codes, these strange little codes that she has to kind of decipher. But during the course of each of these books, there are other adventures and mysteries that she has to solve. And in this particular one, Dr. Watson disappears. And she sets out to kind of help find him. Really good. I gave this one 5 stars. And then, finishing out, I read the entire Spiderwick Chronicles. Somehow these got out of order here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. I read number 1 during Dewey's 24-hour readathon. Absolutely loved it. I gave each one of these 5 stars. I love the series. Really just enjoyable. About 3 children, Mallory, Jared, and Simon. Jared and Simon are twin boys. And the 3 kids, along with their mother, move into their great Aunt Lucinda's house. Their father has sort of left the family, disappeared, don't really know. But the house is anytime they move into an old, creepy kind of house, I just find that so intriguing. They discover like an attic, which is sort of the study. Oh, there's the house. Lovely illustrations, by the way. And up in the attic, they find Arthur Spiderwick's sort of library, and they come across this field guide, which is the name of the first book, that has, it talks about fairies and hobgoblins and goblins and all sorts of strange creatures, and it pulls all 3 of the kids into some crazy adventures in the fields and things surrounding the home. There's even a map. Yeah, there's a map of like their house is in the middle and all the different things in the woods here. The old quarry, the junkyard, middle school, the Grove. There's some other things in the other ones. But yeah, I just thoroughly enjoyed each and every one of these. Book 2 is the Seeing Stone. As they discover a stone that allows them to see the creatures. And soon there's a way around that where you don't need the stone, but you find that out in the book. And then there's Lucinda's Secret, so they find out a little bit more. They get to finally meet their great Aunt Lucinda, who is sort of in a home for elderly people who have sort of lost their mind, but has she really? She has talked about fairies since she was quite younger, so maybe she's not so crazy after all, as the kids will find out. And then book 4 is The Ironwood Tree. And finally, book 5 is The Wrath of Mulgarath. This is like this big, huge creature that sort of controls everybody around. Really enjoyed this series. I hear there's another kind of continuing 3-volume set by these authors, kind of continuing. It says Beyond Spiderwick or something like that. So I might be looking into those. But for a really quick read, quick enjoyable stories, definitely recommend these for all ages. A lot of fun. So that concludes my April wrap-up. If I counted these correctly, it's 25. Now, I thought I had read 26 in this month, but now I can't access Goodreads to confirm that, and I don't know what the other book is that I might be missing. I was able to access Goodreads, and there was a 26th book, which I had forgot about, and that was The Walking Dead, The Fall of the Governor, Part 2 by Robert Kirkman and Jay Bonasinga. This completes the Walking Dead Governor series, and overall I only gave this one 3 stars. I was kind of disappointed. No major revelations in it. It was just okay. I think the first book in the series was probably the best, because that's really before the governor kind of became the governor, before he had entered Woodbury and sort of completely changed his personality. But so at least definitely 25 books out of a month that had 30 days in it. That just boggles my mind. I mean, granted, most of these were like mangas you can just fly through, or like these middle grades. So the numbers shot up quite more than I expected, but still an awesome April month. And yeah, readathons can really just jettison your desire to read. So I'm looking forward to any more readathons coming up. I heard there's something called Bout of Books in May. Not sure when that starts. We'll be looking into that. But yeah, or maybe I'll create one of my own or something. Who knows? A vacation readathon, because I'm going to be on vacation in about 2 weeks. Not going anywhere, one of those staycations. I'll just be reading. Who knows? We'll see. But anyway, that's my April wrap-up. Thanks for watching. And if you guys have read any of these books, let me know what you thought about them. And see you next time. Happy reading.